All right, I want to start this episode a little bit differently today because the guest that I have on the show today, Armin, I met at a retreat, and I'll be honest with you guys, and I'll be honest with Armin. I don't know if he knows this, but my first impression of him was not so great, right? I met him at this retreat. I thought he was another confident guy who thought that he knew something that nobody else knew. He was a little bit too spiritual for me, a little bit too sure of himself. And I'll be honest with you, for the first couple of days at that retreat, I kept my distance away from him. And I don't know if you noticed that, Armin, but on the last day of the retreat, guys, he gave a presentation about surrendering his life. And I sat there thinking through the presentation, okay, this is nice. This is cool, but it's not for me, right? Because I'm a builder, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm Russian. My family does not freaking surrender to feelings or surrender at all. If you look at the freaking world, Russians don't surrender to anything. We don't have that in our dictionary. And then after that presentation, we did a 3-hour freaking meditation, which, again, I've never meditated before him for more than 5 minutes. And I freaking bawled. Like, I cried. And I know you noticed, you came up to me afterwards, and I don't cry, guys. Like I said, I come from a Russian background with a very strong father. Men don't show their feelings. And something happened to me that day that I still, to be honest with you, cannot really explain or to go back to that. But it definitely changed everything that I see today. In a sense that Armin has challenged me to do a meditation challenge where consistently for as long as I could back then. I think you showed me 180 days on your app. Armin, I'm actually going 223 days strong right now. Most of them are not silent meditations, but those silence meditations hit the most. And I know that I talked to you about this before. The most that I could have done was 45 minutes. You said that some things happens after 1 hour. But Armin, today you're on Steel Building, and I want you and the listeners to just hear this out and take this episode in a different way, because whether you are in the grind mode like most of us are, anxious, frustrated, chasing something that we cannot really name or get to, I want you to give this episode your full attention, because there might be another option that you have not tried yet. Armin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I really enjoyed your introduction. And I don't think I picked up right away that you didn't like me or you're avoiding me, but I can at least say the feeling was somewhat mutual, because you just always looked very angry or judgmental in because of the face. We talked about that. So it's funny to see how the mind completely manipulates our perception based on our inner world, and to see what is not the truth, but just illusions of things until we get close and we open it up and we listen, we pay attention. Go, wait, things don't seem as they are, So it's cool that we're here now. Here we are, friends.
Man, and I know this is a very different introduction than I do for most, but it was definitely an amazing experience, from the meeting you and then going to be crying to you. And then, you did share with me that I have this face. So thank you. So since then, I try to keep a smile on my face. But Armin, before we get into where you are now, I want to go ahead and just have an understanding for our listeners. Where did you actually come from? What did you build in the past? Just take me back to the beginning.
So the company, I started as early as 20 years old that I was doing transformation events. So it's kind of full circle that I am doing this now, but it's very odd for me to be here looking like this, speaking like this, talking about things like this, because for those first 3 or 4 years of my 20s, I did a lot of breakthrough stuff, and I had this deep egoic attachment to being like Tony Robbins or one of these guys. And it's almost like my soul was trying to find its way back home to who it always has been. But I kept finding versions of me, role models that I attached to becoming. And that wasn't the way, but it was the best I knew how to do as a young man. And so I did do a lot of events back then, and somehow that turned into training speakers, but also doing a lot of life transformation stuff. And I was young, but I was very intuitively inclined. And I was able to see things for people that they couldn't see. So I started really young. Then COVID happened. And at the time, I was also witnessing a lot of people making tons of money online. And of course, my weak spot at the point was events are very expensive. I'm not making money. And so I kind of convinced myself of the second big purpose I have, which is to build one of the biggest, and baddest business companies. And so my ego being, the size of a planet at the time, in a good way. It was a healthy ego, but it was big. I thought, well, I'm not going to come in here as a small guy or an average guy. I'm going to come in with a bang. So I bought the entire industry's domain. I bought highticketcoaching.com. And so whereas everyone was just being high ticket coaches, I'm like, I'm going to show up and, flaunt, so we bought the domain. Funny enough, it was up for like six figures. I think it was like $100,000 to buy the domain. I got it down to $1,200. It's pretty crazy. But I got the domain, and that was kind of the beginning. It was in the midst of COVID, and I built this company over another 3 years. It feels like these are each lifetimes of their own, 3-year spans. For the next 3 years, somewhere between 23 and 26, I built a pretty good company. We did about 4 or 5 million in sales in about 2.5 years. We had 400 clients go through. They're mostly coaches and business owners. I had a lot of agencies too and some other people. And I just got really obsessed with being something. Honestly, I'm not. I'm good at business because I like influence. I like persuasion. I love people. I love emotions and understanding why people do things. But because I was a psychologist or a sense of an influencer, like an ability to be a good salesman, I thought I'd also be good at business. That's not the case. Business had a lot of qualities that honestly weren't natural to me, like systems and operations and patience to listen to someone, and also surrendering a lot of your ego when just to get things moving. And so it kind of became like a boxing ring, and I was the one getting hit. So my business became that. But at first, it was an inspiring idea. I'm like, I'm going to be the first one to make $1 million in my family. And, I didn't know any millionaires in my family. And I came from a lot of hardworking entrepreneurs in my family. Almost everyone in my family, even extended, they all had businesses, brick and mortar businesses. And so I looked at my dad also growing up. He had 3 back-to-back businesses where he kind of failed and he had to keep going. And then he eventually got into renovation business. And that was the last one he had before he passed away. And so I saw a lot of business failure around me, or at least businesses that were successful. The person's life wasn't good. And I was determined to be the first to be able to break all those stigmas. And so that was an inspiring thing. The problem was, by the time I got to the point where I made my first $1 million, and I won that, award in the industry, and I was kind of alone in the middle of Lake Arrowhead in California, out of my country, from Toronto. I was out of my home place, out of where I kind of knew myself. I was around people I was close to. They were like brothers of mine, but I just had met them. And I was sitting there all alone. I remember seeing the million and the approval that I won the award from this ClickFunnels company. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this is kind of let's just say it wasn't exactly what I thought this moment would be like. But I still felt proud. I'm like, yeah, I did it. And we went on to do more millions and won another award, and then helping other people win awards. And I kept just listening to what everyone else was saying in the industry, which is, the moment you do it for yourself, do it for others, and fulfillment will come. You'll be all meaningful. But I feel like everyone kind of subtly lies to themselves and each other because they don't know any better. It's not their fault. I don't think they're malicious. But I was one of those people. I was telling my clients, keep working. It's going at it. It's just the devil trying to come make you quit. That don't listen to that feeling. And the problem was, it was a very stubborn person. It took me several years. It was like 3 years back to back. I made nothing less than $1 million. And somehow at the end of each of those years, even if I had made double that amount in that 1 year, I had some bigger years, I still felt the same misery, the same emptiness, the same sense of, I wasn't an unhappy person. I mean, you could argue I was as well, but I was a happy guy generally. I was very positive. I had Think and Grow Rich, President Think and Grow Rich as my mentor. I had a very strong mental attitude. I changed my, life destiny from growing up around struggling and poverty and all this stuff into a millionaire, hanging out with all these people I would have never had a chance to talk to. So it's not like my life reflected misery or suffering or unhappiness. If you looked at me, you would have said, this guy got it all figured out. He's so successful. He's so happy. But on the inside, I felt grateful, happiness. I felt excitement. I felt drive. I felt, confidence, all that shit. But the only thing I didn't feel was peace. And for a long time, I told myself, that wasn't that important. And I also didn't know what real peace is. Peace was in the spirit, but I just had a lot of mental peace. Like, I was able to change my mind and thoughts every time something disturbed me. I was just really good at ignoring it, not actually dissolving it, which is a major difference of how I live now. But at the time, 3 years back to back, no matter how successful it became, how many clients made more money, I had clients make far more money than me. It's like every time we made a little progress forward, I made one step deeper into emptiness in myself. And that paradox started scaring me because I was the kind of guy who makes it happen. It's all in my mind. I could do it. And I was finding myself in this position where I really did not know why I couldn't achieve the feeling I want inside. And because I only know how to achieve and I don't know how to do this, I kind of felt trapped. And that was a subtle feeling that grew over the years. And some of the best investments I made was in spiritual, inner peace coaching. I had a few angels I feel like came in my life. But out of the $500,000 I spent in like mentorships and programs, maybe only 60 of it was for my well-being inside. And I would switch that today. I wouldn't spend 400 grand on business stuff and then only 50 on the personal inner stuff, because I realized the inner stuff completely got in the way of all the rest. But I had a few glimpses of moments of peace, and I'm like, and I start to get afraid that maybe the life I built around me is not really what's meant for me. Maybe I'm just following what I think I should be following. Maybe, sure, I know how to get what I want, but a lot of people don't stop to think, how do I know what I want in the first place to even go get it? And so I think for most of us who are achieved entrepreneurs, we have it down, the skill of creating or manifesting a reality. But the proposition I now have when I speak to people that are kind of walking the path I used to walk, or even that I may walk one day, I don't have an ego about that, but I can relate to those people that are working hard. I go, sure, you know how to get everything you want. But now the question is, first of all, do you even want what you have? Because if you don't even know how to want what you have, what's the point of getting more? And the second question is, if you can get anything, how do you know what you're going after is what wants you? How do you know that's the right thing for you to want, what's meant for you? You don't. So it's a shot in the dark, but you always hit it. And it gets scary if you keep hitting the target on what you want, but still feeling like it wasn't really what's meant for me. And that's what makes us feel eternally lonely inside, is that our spirit feels all alone and isolated, even though our human and our ego and our body's out there building this empire around us. So that was the second kind of life I feel like I lived. And it came to a gradual realization of like, all right, I'm so attached to this business that I don't own it, it owns me. And at that point, I was like, I'm not stubborn enough anymore to continue doing this. It's funny because I slowly closed down the offers I had that were making money. And I'm like, I just need to make space to see. I don't care if what if I make more money? If I don't, how am I going to pay payroll? I'm like, I need to do this. I already spent years pretending it's not there, that feeling. I need to make space to see what else is trying to call me. And at the time, I had this new idea, this like spiritual sales school with Think and Grow, the first of its kind. And I spent 8 months building it. I indoctrinated my team into it. And we launched it. And we made like almost 90 to 100 grand in 60 days. And I just closed it. Because at that point, I learned my lesson. The moment I started to feel anything from the past that I knew I felt before, this kind of dissonance between me and the thing I'm doing, this misalignment, the moment I felt it, instead of spending years and costing my peace of mind and my life and my time, just ignoring it, this time I'm like, I've learned my lesson. I don't need to go another 3 years with a whole new business to get to the end and realize, fuck, did I just do that all over again? It's not meant for me. So this time it took 60 days. I'm proud of myself for that. I shut it. And then for the first time ever, at the age of 27, it was 28, sorry, 2 years ago now, I had nothing to do. And that was a very interesting place to be in, because for 10 years straight, I was the guy who was working towards this gradual vision of being someone. And for the first time, I had nothing to do, nowhere to be, no one to become, nothing to prove. I didn't have any goal, no visions. It was like the opposite. I just swung the opposite way because I needed to see. I didn't want to negotiate anymore with my intuition. I just wanted to be like, all right, take over. What's happening here? And I still had clients. I had to obviously follow through and I finished things. But by the end of that year, I had no employees left, who had one by one let everyone go. I had my business partner who was kind of like, he's like a brother to me today. He's a brother to me. And it was like the end. Him walking away and like us going separate ways, but still being friends was like the ultimate, like, it's done. Like, here I am. And by then I'd started my surrender experiment and started documenting every day. So I have it all recorded mostly. The documentation started when I was still halfway through 30 days into launching my sales school. So it's cool that I have that recorded, and then it ends 30 days in, about 30, 40 days in. So here we are today, fast forward years later, and I can confidently say that everything in my life today, my soulmate that I met, the true love I never thought was possible to feel, the kind of money that comes into my life, the freedom, the good relationship I have to feeling pleasure without feeling guilty or having to earn it, the completion and the wholeness I feel, the connection to God in every moment, the beautiful people and connections I have, all of it is a direct result of my surrender experiment. And what I mean by that is none of it was something I chased, I wrote down as a goal to want, or something I really attached to needing. I literally just stopped all of it, and it came through. It came in on its own. That's the magic I'm trying to share with people today, because I think the fear of letting go is an illusion. And the illusion is, it's like waking up from a bad dream that wasn't yours and realizing it was just a dream. And the real life you wake up in, the one that's meant for you, is far more magical than you could ever create by controlling it through your ego.
There's a lot. Let me just take a step back here. This was awesome. I love that you went through this whole story, because going from, this grinder with your family, with your father, his business successes and failures, and then you become a millionaire, and then you decide to let it all go. And for the listeners, before we dive deeper into this whole surrender experiment, I just want for the listeners to have a little bit of a better understanding of what surrender is. Because like I said, whenever you talked about it, even at the retreat, I was like, okay, cool, interesting. But, the meditation is really what hit for me and what made me go into this rabbit hole. But how would you explain what surrender to someone who's used to, like you were and like I am right now, is to build everything through force of will, through push through the freaking walls, to break records? How do you explain surrender to someone like that?
Yeah, this is an ongoing question that constantly needs to be clarified. I'll start with saying I'll do my best. I've been documenting, I'm almost up to 800 days now of scientifically observing my own mind, my own ego, my own self, as I experiment with different decisions, with surrender, attachment, everything. And so I've collected a good library of insights and understandings and somewhat frameworks on how to understand the difference between truth and illusion, what is surrender, what's not. So I'll do my best. I can't say I found the truth, but the best I could do is, first of all, what surrender is not is just going with the flow of something and just doing whatever you feel like doing or wanting to do. This is an oversimplification of surrender. And in fact, it's probably a small part of what it really is. There is a portion of it like that. Real surrender is going where you don't even want to go, doing what you don't even want to do, at the cost of your preference for things being a different way, at the cost of your attachment to things having to be a certain way, and at the need for your ego to have to control how things are and the outcomes of them. Surrender is the practice of letting things be different than what you expected them to be. Surrender is the practice of letting things be different than what you expected them to be. And if you trace back every source of misery for a person, it always comes back to the life that they're living or how things are being doesn't match what they expected or they're attached to them wanting to be. And so a lot of people think, well, I got to get way better at making my reality match my expectation, which just means I got to get way better at submitting God at my hand, life at my hand, making them submit to my power so that I can get the attachment I want. And when you just hear it that way from a yogic science perspective, you go, that makes no sense. That's kind of opposite to the kind of goal of life. Goal of life should be liberation, the gradual realization of who am I, the ultimate realization of God within you and the oneness between all of us. That should all your goals should lead to that place. If it's not, where are you going? What's the point? So you want to, by the end of your life, when you're dying, not to be thinking, I became the best human being on the planet. No one was better than me. That would be a very lonely death. Rather be thinking, wow, I saw God in every person's eyes that I ever looked into. And I know that I'm one with everything and everything's one with me. That's a very peaceful passing of away. I want to be dying with those as my last thoughts, that I am everything and everything's me, that God was in all of my experiences every moment. Every person was chosen to be in my life. That oneness is what's going to give you a very peaceful passing. So I would say surrender, my favorite metaphor for surrender is, look at the literal meaning of surrender. Where does it come from? Battles, wars, right? So that's where most people know surrender, like movies or real life history. And usually when you are attacking, you're facing an enemy, you're at war with an enemy. Surrender would mean, wave the white flag, I give up, I quit, you win, I lose. You can take over my kingdom now and take my women and my children and put my men to work, right? It's very extreme. It started off this place of surrender is the ultimate loss. It's death to your freedom and your happiness and your safety. So this is only when you're at war with an enemy. Surrender is the last thing you want to do. It's the thing you avoid doing at the most, isn't it? Which is usually how most of us live our lives. Ego is in an illusory war with someone who's the enemy, though. Who is the enemy? My circumstances. Is that the enemy? The conditions, my limitations. Okay, well, then of course I would never want to surrender, right? In that context. But I started to realize, it became clearer and clearer, the more I practiced the spiritual practice of surrender, I realized on the other side is not my enemy, it's God. What if on the other side is God? You're fighting God, you're fighting life, you're fighting higher intelligence that actually knows your fate, knows your destiny, that knows you at the deepest core, not this conditioned version of you that you've been manipulated into believing in your life since you've been born. And in that case, in this context, just for that example, hypothetically, if on the other side of this battle that I'm fighting so hard against and never surrender to is God, well, then surrender would be the wisest thing to do. It'd be the most powerful decision to make. Because when you surrender, to the ultimate flow, the higher intelligent flow of life in God. They don't move in and take your women, children, and men. They don't make you suffer. They move in and they remove the suffering from your kingdom. They bring food and water and answers to your life. And so we're all at war with God. If I was going to generalize it into kind of a poetic statement, we're all at war with God. And I wouldn't even say that we are, it's more that our egos are, because our egos are the part of us that says we're not God. We're not one with everything. We are better than everyone. That's the ego. And so when we surrender, the only thing that dies is not you. It's not your kingdom. It's not your life. It's your ego. And only when you do surrender at the deepest level and watch your ego die, do you finally see, kind of like waking up from a dream, damn, this ego was the source of all my suffering. This ego is the reason why I was unhappy, no peace, lost, empty, void, justified doing wrong things. This ego, now it's dead. Letting it be reborn, but under the rules and the premise of your true nature. That's what surrender is.
Let me give you a personal fight that I have in my mind every time I think about this concept. And I think about this concept a lot, to be honest with you, because in my personal life, I have a father who, I don't know if I told you the story when I met you or not, but he pretty much, if you want to call surrender, he pretty much gave up. There was a point in his life when he's like, screw all this. I'm done trying. He tried every freaking business idea that you could think of, and he failed. And he's like, life is going to take care of me. God is going to take care of me. I'm going to go ahead and just surrender. And in my experience, what happened to him, nothing happened to him. And like even today, he's struggling in terms of life. And this is exactly why I am who I am today, is because of, thank God that's going on, because I see that the other way and I'm like, hell no. I'm going to let God do the thing, but I'm going to go ahead and, break freaking walls and records just like you're doing. So how is that? Explain to someone like me, and I think most people are in this boat where they're like, you can, and I'm not saying do nothing, but he did try. He did try in his life. He did, and he just couldn't do it. And at one point, he threw his hands up and was like, screw this. He doesn't take care of his health. He doesn't take care of his finances. He doesn't take care of his mind by reading, nothing. How is this different from surrender?
He decided to stop living, not to stop living only for himself. And surrender is deciding to live for something bigger. So by nature, surrender doesn't make you a person who does nothing. It makes you a person who does everything for not yourself. Because as soon as I went into surrender, the work didn't stop. My business closed, but there were still people in my life. And I had a lot of work to do. And the work was figuring out, who have I been being? What damage have I caused to the people that were in my life? What responsibilities do I have? But the difference was I didn't feel alone in taking the care of those problems anymore like I always did. Rather so I felt, because I surrendered to the higher power moving into my life and stopped resisting the higher power, then now I'm co-creating with God, which means I'm not alone. But your dad, and I've seen people like this, it's not just your dad. Surrender is not that. That's dormancy. That's dying. The will to live has ceased. But the will to live doesn't cease when you surrender, just the control of the outcome does. See, two people, right? They're working hard at a soccer game. They want to win the game. It's supposed to be a fun game. But one person is deeply attached and needs to win, or else they're a loser and a failure. Their dad's watching. The other person is just playing to play. It's a fun game. They win, they win. They don't win, it's okay. The only difference between the two, from the outside, if you see them, they both look the same. They might be playing very aggressive, very competitive. But at the end, one person's miserable, one person wants to play again. And the only difference is internally. One person thinks they need the outcome of the game to be a certain thing. The other person doesn't need to. They're present with the game itself. And so in that way, we don't own our goals in our life. We don't own the work that we do. We don't own the money we have. They all own us. And surrender is the practice of returning that power back to yourself. I always say that surrender and being at peace is not about doing nothing. It's about letting nothing own you as you do things. So I walk into an event, I spoke this past week, right? If I had a deep attachment and I didn't know surrender, there's a lot of parts of me would want a lot of people to be in the room, need people to reach out to me to work with me after. There's a lot of needs. There's a lot of attachments there. I need everyone to like me at the end. But when you're in surrender, when you're in peace, you go up there and you just talk. If one person comes, speaks with you, one person speaks with you. If no one does, no one does. It's not the end of the world to you anymore. Yeah, I need to make money from the event. No, money will come. If it's a necessary thing, it will come. But I'm not here. It's not my job to force it. It's my job to be of service. In other words, to simplify for you, for business owners listening, surrender is not ceasing input. It's ceasing attachment to outcome, but the input's still there. I still had many calls I did for free, giving away my time, being of service to people, giving away everything I could when I started surrendering. I just didn't make money from it anymore. I just didn't have a business or an identity that I need to gain from it anymore. I didn't need their validation from it anymore. It was freely serving. And one of the S's of surrender, selfless service, is the practice of giving as a devotional offering to God, not because you get something from it. Surrender is just, I don't live just for myself anymore. That's it. You could even look at it as a mental maturity. It's a maturity. It's an evolution for a person. That your life is not just about you. If it's only about you, you still have not surrendered ego. You're just miserable with it, doing nothing. So when you're in surrender, you do everything, but you do it fully with no fear or attachment to the outcome. And ironically, you end up multiplying far more wealth into your life than you did if you were a person who was always forcing the outcome and people could feel it, like they need me to buy. It's like a salesperson who has too many leads. They don't need you to buy on the call. And that kind of energy is very, very seductive, very contagious. People feel and they go, I feel comfortable with this guy. I want to buy from him. He doesn't need me to buy. But surrender, spiritual surrender, is not needing too many leads to be that person. Just be that way.
You build a community around this called the Surrender Project.
Yeah.
How did that all come together, and what do people actually who join this community experience it inside of it every day?
Yeah, at first, so much wisdom was being shown to me as I just deeply surrendered every day and let go. And, the teacher in me was like, oh my God, these are all such great courses. And I could easily turn this into a system. There's a big business guy in me. And I definitely wanted to do something with it. But at that time, I still had a lot of business to take care of with my own ego. And I'm like, you don't get to touch anything yet. You've done enough. You're in timeout. We're fasting from you for now. So every impulse I had to do something with all these wisdoms and insights and realizations that weren't mine, they're just coming through. It's almost like life was revealing itself, unveiling itself to me. And I was like, oh my God, everyone needs to know that this is how it works, wow, look at this. I was so attentive to things. But I made a promise to myself to practice something called delaying for divine. And delaying for divine for me was a practice of waiting until the impulse to do it was gone. So therefore, if it's truth to do it, there's no impulse or attachment to it. I just do it because it's not as exciting. Another way of saying it is like when the idea is hot, most people say, run with it. Okay, it depends. You need intuitive discernment to know if that's aligned or not. Or else most things are going to feel great. Everything's, I used to tell people in business, be careful of good sounding bad ideas. Right? It's like everything sounds great, but most things are bad ideas or not aligned to you. So I did a practice where for months, as I was documenting every day and all this material was coming through, I had this urge in me to keep launching something. And I'm like, no. And I would see people posting things, launching things. Oh, I'm behind. I gotta get on this. No. I'm like, until this feeling subsides, I won't touch it because I want to honor the sacredness of what I'm saying and what I'm working on. And I waited until, my prayer to God was, give me an obvious sign. I don't want to negotiate with you or my ego. I'm only doing this if 100% aligned. And after 3-4 months of kind of pushing off, delaying the craving and the deep impulse to want to act on this, make this into something, I stopped. And I had all these visions, by the way, of me teaching and having a week. It felt so good. But that's what's seductive about the ego. Most people think the ego or the devil is like this really bad darkness. No, man, it shows up as your best friend, always wanting to get you the best, feel the best, maximize everything. You get better. And that's the real trickster, right? It just keeps making you chasing into this new version of you that you need to be. And it's just, I got sold all these ideas in my head, like, it could be so great, big community, thousands of people will be listening to you. I'm like, just shut up. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me. So if there's a you involved in the service, then there's an ego about it. If there's an ego about it, it's an attachment. You're, even if it is truth or in alignment to you, you're still contaminating it with all this attachment, okay? So I waited, I don't know, maybe months, 3-4 months. And eventually, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who runs an investing company, and he had about 80 clients, and they were going through a tough time in the market. And he was a close friend of mine. He used to be a business client of mine, paid me lots of money, made a lot of money. He made his first $1 million in business with us working together in the first year. And then I withdrew myself from the industry, and I was still his friend, and I still gave him advice. I was mentoring him, whatever. But he talking to me one day, he's like, everyone's going through a lot of emotional roller coasters. because the market's really bad. And I go, bro, if you really want to step into the professional side of investing, or as a company, you got to do more than just teach them how to make money. You got to start thinking about their well-being, like bring in some psychologists and therapists and people that like really take care of them as a client of yours. I'm like, that's how you really level up the value here. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, so who do you know? Like, this is a great opportunity to bring value from the wellness side to help them deal with the inner stuff as you go through things. I was genuinely just telling him that. And we're sitting there, and as we're sitting there in the silence thinking, I'm like, oh, I could do that. But I didn't say anything. And he looked at me, he goes, honestly, bro, the only person I know is you. So I'm like, my ego got a little bit of fun there. But I was sitting there and I'm like, are you sure you don't know anyone else? I mean, I'm not a clinical psychologist, and I know a lot of people that have, one of my past clients had $1 million a month company teaching trading and had a psychologist number. I'm like, you do something like that. He goes, you're the only person I know that has like all the spiritual wisdom, and it's like, and maybe you can help. And I sat with it for a moment. Again, I waited for the impulse. I'm like, I got to jump on this. And I said, okay, well, I'm willing to help. No problem at all. But see if you know other people too. I just want to keep making sure this is really calling me, and it's not something I orchestrated. So we ended up going with me. And that was a whole process, because I think it was my first time in months of not charging at all for what I do, my time around sharing my story and my insights. And he offered me a contract, and I don't think I told him this yet, but I'm sure one day we'll laugh about it. But the number he gave me was so insulting to my business ego. It was a big surrender for me. I was so aggravated. I was so offended, because I was the kind of guy you pay tens of thousands of dollars for. So I was see a big opportunity to surrender my ego. And he told me the number per call he wanted to pay me. And he had all these clients. And I said, man, this will be breadcrumbs. And I looked at God. I'm like, all this service I'm doing, you don't give me some more? And I'm like, oh, look at me. Still using surrender as a way to get something from God. So it was a lot of seeing my ugliness. Oh, okay, there it is. Anyways, I had this moment where I had to decide between saying, keep your money, I'll do it for free, which is ego in disguise, power over him, and leverage. Like, I don't need your money. I'll do it free. So now you owe me. Other side is I can negotiate, which is a sense of controlling the outcome. Oh, give it to me. Now, negotiation isn't bad, but at that time, my lesson was not to negotiate for my self-worth. That was not my lesson. If I was honest, some people need to have that lesson. And I said, fuck, what do? Do I ask for more? Do I ask for nothing? I said, what would be the harder thing to do here? And that's how I discern what surrender is. A lot of people don't know how to know which one is a surrender, which decision. The harder thing to do that offends my ego the most, triggers the ego the most, I said, it would be to just accept this and say nothing. So I did that. And sure enough, I put about 31, maybe 32 people on my calendar in a matter of a week, a little over a week. So I crammed 5-6 calls a day. And I did all these calls with all his clients. And of course, at that time, I'm thinking, I'm doing all this work, getting nothing. But the greater treasure chest was hidden in that surrender. See, I would have never done it. We would have had an altercation, maybe not done it. And this whole thing wouldn't have unfolded, which was this. Over the 30 calls, I met with each person, and I found myself kind of repeating the same thing to each person. We'd have a conversation about, it was called a peace of mind call. We'd have a conversation about, are you at peace? I'm not at peace. But you're happy. Yeah, I'm really happy. I'm grateful, everything. I'm like, but you're not at peace. It's interesting. You know that you're not at peace, but you're happy, which means happiness isn't peace. And this started to go deeper in conversation. I got really good at polishing essentially what became the first lesson, the first kind of teaching I had that was fully organized and structured on helping people see the difference between how the ego tricks you into chasing happiness. It's not real. But the real thing you're searching for in that is the peace, which is completely opposite. And so I gave this analogy of playing golf, and I got really good at teaching it. I had the first chance to really get good at it. And by the end of that week, I had my first course. I also had 30 people that I'd helped with their well-being inside. And the moment that week ended, I sat there and I go, I had my first course. All these people probably need a place to go for me to be able to help them ongoingly for free. I think it's time to make the school. And that was the first time I felt not an impulse to do it, but rather an alignment. And the key difference was an impulse was very exciting. I was like, oh, I got to do it. It's almost like there's an implied pressure or stress. Like if I don't do it, something bad will happen. I got to run now. That's impulse. But what I felt in that moment was this kind of peaceful, relaxed realization that school is the next move. It's like, it just is. It's aligned. There is no, I need to. And if I didn't do it, it would have been okay. So I launched the school literally, I think, the week after. And I invited everyone. And I took that recording of my best teaching, cut it up, and I made it the first course. It all kind of made itself. I didn't build the community. It built itself through me. And if you could see business like that, you'll start to co-create with God and not be alone in it. But that was the key thing. And now it's been, I think almost 2 years. And we're at 1,200 members. And it's changed many lives. I feel like it changes my life every time I step in. There's tons of courses in there. There's no upsells or anything. And it is what it is. It was a place for me to kind of groom my mind in the work of what I do, to have a way to get better at helping people as I teach and understand and seeing other people. We've done group healing sessions together for, sending love and energy to people and them having healings. It's been crazy community. It kind of built itself. I'm a participant.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love on these podcasts, I like to go into, the side of you or the side of the experience that everybody's talking about that maybe you don't share. And I guess my question is, through this whole, what day are you on? 800 and what?
Can I actually check real quick? Let me see. I have it in my Notion. I have it all listed down. We are on, this is day 769. Yeah.
Wow. 769.
Wait.
So
it'll be 776 actually by next week. Yeah, by the end of this week.
Good for you, man. Well, so the question is, during the whole surrender time, I was going to say surrender experiment because that's the book you told me about before, but surrender journey that you were on, did it ever feel wrong? Did it ever feel like, is this something that, okay. Can you talk about that and how did you get through that?
I think in those testing periods where no money was coming in, I was broke, which I did allow and I say it this way because people call bullshit on this, but it's because they really believe this is not a choice that could be made. It's just a victimized situation you end up in. But I chose to be broke for some time because I need to know I'm still okay if I am. I was too afraid to be, and I didn't want fear to be the driving force of making money anymore. But I had to deeply face it and sit in that. And a lot of people will think, well, that would only happen to you. No one rightfully or would choose to be broke. I'm like, well, try to be. Look how scared you are to just have no money. So the practice was sitting with all the demons one-on-one and loving them. But there was these periods where I'd go into like a period of time where I had no money, but I'm still giving hours on hours. And I'm feeling love. And I'm feeling, essentially egoically, I deserve to not be suffering or struggling. And I wasn't suffering, but I was struggling. In the struggle, a sense of mentally struggling, not even mentally, I would say physically struggling with just bills or whatever. And there's times where I felt like I was giving my heart and my all to people from all over, people I didn't know, I never heard back from. And there's parts of me I was like, I wish they would have the decency to pay something, a little bit of that. Cause I'm like, I would do that. I'm like that. And there's times where doubt came and am I just being lazy? The parts of me would come am I just really deeply justifying being burnt out and just needing to not work for some time and making it into a story so I can make myself feel like this is all just, so much more than just, I don't want to work. There's all these moments where I go deep into these tunnels of myself. Am I bullshitting? And there are beautiful tunnels. Because I would witness my mind advance in its ability to take all types of shapes and forms to again convince me something's wrong with me. And if you pay attention to the pattern of the mind, it's always trying to convince you of two things, especially if your mind comes from a poverty background, negative household. It's always trying to convince you that something's wrong or this is bad. And if you catch that motherfucker, always being the salesman trying to tell you, something's wrong, this is bad, trying to really convince you of this, you kind of wake up from the ongoing illusion that something's wrong and this is bad. And then you start to see you could be at peace and the exact situation you are doesn't have to be any different. And if you pay attention to the patterns, it takes all different types of shapes and forms to become far more convincing if it doesn't work. It's almost like it levels itself up the deeper you go into surrendering, into being still and not reacting to it. And the less you react to the mind at first, it becomes more loud. And the louder it gets, you start to, again, doubt, wait, why is this getting worse? It's not working. But actually, if you keep at it, there's a threshold you reach. And I reached the threshold. And the threshold you reach is, it just kind of pops like a bubble. And then you realize nothing it did took you out of the center of your stillness, out of the center of truth, which you initially committed to, which is this feels wrong. Something feels off. I'm going to stay here until it feels right. And that's what the mind wants to do. It wants to pull you out of this moment and into running again, chasing, changing. But those moments were difficult because mentally, logically, rationalizationally, I don't know if that's a word, but rationally, there is so many good arguments to make me seem to myself, forget about other people, that I'm just full of shit right now. This isn't really true. I'm not really surrendering. I'm not this. I'm being irresponsible. And all of that's just judgment, man. And I faced the demon of judgment within myself directly head on. And I'm like, you just never stop. And you know when I really saw it? I remember there was a couple of times where I sit down, like just watch a movie because I can, or play a game or something, And I'd see my mind come in from the side, like, why are you sitting here doing this? You should be meditating. You should be doing spiritual work. Why are you wasting your time right now? And suddenly in those moments, it would hit me. When I'm sitting and meditating and I'm doing spiritual work and I'm giving, my mind's thinking, fuck, man, this is a lot of work. Like, let's go out and have fun. Why aren't you hanging out with friends? Why don't you do something for fun for yourself? Then when I'm sitting there, it starts telling you, why aren't you doing spiritual work? I just caught the little bastard. I looked at him like, you just always are going to tell me where I am is not enough and I got to be somewhere else. No more. No mas. It's not going to work anymore. You could shut up now. And then I dissolve into the moment and go, I'm fine. Because that's God. God isn't in some perceived circumstance that's much better than where you are now. And that's where you feel him. God is in this moment regardless of the condition. And the mind constantly wants to separate you from God because it needs to stay alive. If you're one with God, mind dissolves. It just doesn't have control over you anymore. And it's kind of like a parasite at first. The ego kind of latches onto you and it wants to take over the host. But when you wake up from that dream, it stops having this power of you, this illusory, like you believe your thoughts. Essentially, that's the source of it. It just stops. And then I realized I wasn't bullshitting. This is actually the practice of realizing constantly and remembering I'm okay in this moment. There's nothing that needs to happen. But only when I'm in the place of I don't need anything to be different or happen, then I'm at peace. And from that place, I go, what do I need to do right now? Like, what should be done? What's my duty? What's my responsibility? And then there's an alignment in working maybe to pay for the bills. But you have to overcome that voice inside that's making you think something's wrong if you don't, that you're not enough if you don't. So it's funny because people think you just end up being a yogi or hippie. I feel like those people stayed and got attached to the feeling of I need to do nothing. I never did. I had a momentary experiment where I became my hippie self or whatever it was. And then I realized there is a deep sense of fulfillment and love in service. So I went right back to serving, but with the awareness that I don't need to be doing this and I'm not shit or bad or this or that if I don't. And if it doesn't produce an outcome, all of that just dissolved. It just dissolved.
You were broke. I mean, that's probably what's going to hit most of the listeners because that's one of the fears we're always trying to run away from, is that financial independence. But you gave up successful business. You gave up pursuing money. And I think you told us a story about how at the retreat, I remember how you helped a gentleman, I think at a parking lot to carry his groceries or something.
Yeah.
And he offered you some money and you were looking at that money when you knew you had, I think that's what the story is, how you had very little or any money in your account and he's offering you this money, but you have to surrender from the attachment to money. And you said, no, you just gave him a hug and you walked away. Can you talk about that specifically? And I mean, that's another level when you know that you're broke and you're seeing this money right here and we're so attached to this financial success.
Yeah. Just for context, he offered maybe $100 and that still would have gone a long way. That's how bad it is.
And you said no. And you said no. $100. He didn't give you like $5. Like that's $100. Like,
yeah, because I think the entrepreneurial quality of being successful in business is commitment. And I still had that. That didn't dissolve just because I'm surrendering. And I just remembered in that moment, what is the real objective here? What am I optimizing for? To benefit from this or to liberate from this? And it was an easy decision. And I saw it and I'm like, that $100 is not worth me staying in the practice of staying where I'm at and challenging my inner security or need to get this in order to feel whole. And I just didn't feel like I was done that yet. I wasn't done with it yet. I feel like I still need to be longer in the I need before it could just stop talking. And then I go, well, if I get this money, I feel no different, which I did reach eventually. And it's funny because a lot more money came in and nothing changed inside me, nothing. At that time, I clearly needed it, which means it wasn't time to get it. So mine was an unmovable, non-negotiable center of commitment to I'm going to stay detached until it doesn't feel like I need anything. And then I feel like I'm ready to walk back into having things, because then they won't have me. And not everyone has to do this. I mean, if you want the most extreme liberation, sure. But there's so many other versions of doing this that doesn't put you on the line, especially if you have responsibility like kids and wife and all that. Or I don't think you have to do an extreme thing I did. I had the ability to do it, so I maximized the potential I had. But a lot of people would start small things, man. Just like not letting a client, like not signing a client if you don't feel aligned, and just be okay with not making that money. I think that's a small thing to start. And I do want to clarify something as well in the light of the fact that this is a podcast is about real, unfiltered, no bullshit. I didn't walk away from my business while it was successful. It was absolutely struggling. And it's because it's based on you in that industry. And because I wasn't aligned, it was very difficult. I was still spending about 80 to 100 grand in expense every month, but I would barely make 50 to 100. So it was sometimes break even, sometimes it was nothing. And so we were negative. And that was towards the end when I started to really deeply let go. So luckily for me, because it was so difficult to continue on the business, it was a little bit easier to surrender, because I thought, well, it's not like I'm losing so much because this is already so difficult. But the potential of it making millions of dollars again, the potential of me activating that part of me, that was all there. So I wouldn't call it $1 million business when I walked away. It was definitely a $1 million expense business. So it was up there. But if you look at my P&L, we made 1, 2, 3 million 3 years in a row, and so it never hit under $1 million. I think the time I hit under $1 million was a year after starting to really close everything down. And I was still surprised I made close to what I did. I was close to $1 million. I was like, well, how'd that happen? But because if I trace it back, I still was giving, and then people were still coming in because the energy shifted. And I was still working with people. So they're paying still 25 grand or so for like business consulting. And I was like, oh, I just don't have an operation. But I don't want to make it seem like, I had millions in my bank account and I said, fuck it, and I went monk. That's not what happened. That's not my story. I'm sure someone else had stories like that. Mine was I was keeping up with all of it. And it was very stressful still. I still had employees. I had a lot of debts that I got to pay. And I was still selling like crazy. I was still doing a couple $100 grand in a month sometimes when I really turned on that guy. But then I would suffer being that guy all over again. I thought, fuck, how many times am I going to keep killing a part of myself to kind of pay the next bill? And that's where I was at when this started to really hit me hard. So it was a little bit more easier. So for those who are struggling, I mean, if you really want to practice, the easiest time is when your business isn't doing well, because that's not a cop-out. It's just you saying there's less risk opportunity cost here to really go the other way and see what happens. So, and my business made millions. I don't think I was a millionaire. That'd be on paper. We generated lots, 4 or 5 million in revenue. We spent millions of dollars, a lot of reinvesting and also my lifestyle. But I think the profits were probably under $1 million for each of those years, no matter how many millions we made. And so I just want to make sure there's a realistic point of view here so people don't, take it out of context.
But I'm glad that you brought this up. So let's take a step back, because I was going to go into the meditation side of things, but I think a lot of people, most business owners will say, are in the whole struggling, right? Even though like we talked about offline, how most look successful on Instagram and doing great, but at the end of the day, top line, you can be making $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, but then in the bottom line, you're barely quote unquote breaking even. Yeah. And you are pushing through because you're like, man, this is my identity. This is my business. This is what I put years into, but now it's struggling. And for those business owners that know that maybe it's time to let go because there's a better opportunity on the other side, how do you let that go? What piece of advice can you give to them saying, look, I've been there. Now I'm here. Is there something that they can make that decision easier with? Or while you're thinking, what was your moment that you're like, I'm done?
I don't want to give a general answer. And an obsession I've had as I've been doing this is getting as specific in language as possible. So it's like not negotiable what I'm saying, in the sense of like not misinterpreted. So everyone just gets it when I say it. But unfortunately, the word that comes through as the answer is awareness. And I know that's so subjective, but I'll try to describe what I mean by awareness. Awareness is, for me, the moment where I'm like, I'm not playing this game anymore. Awareness for me was being able to catch the cyclical pattern of being exactly where I was, no matter how hard I worked. And that required awareness. That required the desire to see truth and to consider it, even if I didn't like it. And because I was paying attention and aware, I was able to honor my feeling intuitively that something seems off. And the moment I looked at it, I realized I have gone through these impulses before. I have felt these things before. I have had this thought process before. This feels repetitive. And the moment you catch that there's something fishy going on here, this is like I'm repeating the same cycle of up and down and up and down and up and down, of happy, not happy, happy, not happy. And I think everyone, to some degree, if they just bring a tiny bit of awareness to reflecting on their life or themselves like that, they'll also see the same thing. But there has to be desire to want to. And the only thing that increases desire, unfortunately, is the increase of suffering. And so the more painful it becomes to keep going with the motion and ignorantly not looking at anything, just keep crushing through, the more pain you experience, more misery you experience inside. And when it hits the peak, wherever your threshold is, maybe mine was lower than some, you eventually hit us enough where you then go, I need to start asking different questions. What the fuck is going on here? Like, I still don't feel like I can just relax and be at peace where I'm at. Like, what's going on? And that makes you look at it and go, holy shit, I've kind of been repeating the same shit. You know, that's what I saw. I'm like, first year, I was like, I got to make $1 million, then I'm it. Then I'll feel that thing I want to feel. I made it. And I'm like, man, I'm such a small fish in a big pond. I got to do at least 10. I got to do at least this. Then I did it. And then I didn't make 10. But like, you know, aim for it. You know, you make more. You make double the amount. I think 2.8 was my best year, 2.6, something like that. And I'm in a big villa in Mexico with a housemaid and, you know, all these awards and this whole brand and everything. And I'm like, I still don't feel the thing. I don't even know what I'm trying to feel, but I know, I'm aware enough to know I don't feel it. What a fucking paradox that is. I don't know what I want to feel, but I know it's not there. Like, how is that possible? Right? That means you can feel something you don't understand. What a phenomenon that is. So there's a different mechanism of intelligence in you that you're not paying attention, which is feelings. And people, you know, drown that out as if it's like some stupid little thing that doesn't matter. But that's your real intelligence. And so it was enough awareness to see it and call bullshit. See, we're very easy to do this for others, but no one does it for themselves, man. And I did it for myself. I looked, I said, do I go a 4th year, a 5th year, pushing through and doing a bit more? And this time adding in donating to charities, maybe just like, you know, like Frankenstein constructing that feeling of wholeness that I've been trying. I'm like, well, in business, if you litmus test something, you split test the funnel, you split test an ad, you split test the sales rep, there's a threshold, isn't there, where you go, well, this doesn't work. You know, I did my training, I did my best, I showed up, I gave them 2-3 chances. Clearly, it's just the person. It doesn't work. Like the thing, the ad, the funnel, we got to change it. Got to rethink this. And I feel like that same courtesy or intelligence isn't extended to ourselves when it comes to how we're approaching our life and our peace. And that's just ridiculous to me. But to me, I saw it was ridiculous, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to repeat the same thing. It's no different than being in a business that just isn't making money, isn't producing what he wants. And I'm like, I'm approaching my life in a way that doesn't produce peace. What's going on here? This is what we all want. We want to feel that feeling of completion inside. That shit, not that we made it, but that we're free. We're free. Nothing owns me. You don't own me. No opinion changes what I am. No amount of money or not money, it changes what I am. I'm fucking free. I'm one with the ultimateness of God, and that's untouchable. And we're trying to get it through this limited fucking egoic dimension of life through getting stuff material. You can't. You got to achieve. You got to return home to that truth inside, then walk into the world, because at that point you'll be in the world, but you're not of the world. So it's just awareness, and then the courage to accept truth when you see it. A lot of people say, I seek truth. I want to see it. But like, if you have a preference for what you want to find as the truth, you're not seeking truth. You're seeking confirmation bias. You just want to confirm what you hope is true. That's not truth. You have to be willing to accept anything, especially if it means death to certain things or that you don't like it. And I think if you don't have that skill, you can't even have a real truthful relationship with a partner in a relationship or a marriage. I don't think if you're carrying that habit everywhere, you don't want to get to know what truth is. Truth never sets you free because you never get there.
I love their perspective, man, and I think that it's real, and it's something that we're all striving for, but we're all running away from at the same time. It's such a weird concept. How we're trying to get to this peace. It is. It's crazy. let's talk a little bit about meditation, because I think that's one of the biggest things that I've done since I've met you. Is I'm on day 223 today. I checked before this call of meditating, and if you can give us a little bit of a perspective, what happens during meditation, what type of meditation we should practice, and for somebody who is not used to doing meditations, huge shout out to Inside Timer app, but what other ways that they can use the power of meditation to improve their life, relationships, business?
Well, before I answer that, could I ask you, what have you experienced and learned and realized from 200 plus days of meditation?
I love that. Presence, not elimination, but a lot less anxiety. Incredible feelings that I've never experienced before, especially during the 145-minute meditation, which I have to be honest with you, tried doing again, and I couldn't afterwards. It happened once, and afterwards it's just been not the same. But overall, I think focus, presence, especially now that I have kids, it connects me better with my children because I'm able to be more present. So I guess that's the word that comes to mind. Although I still struggle with business side of things, and this is where I would love to get your perspective on, where I'm not as connected in the business side because I feel like it's not connected to the business side. It's more of like to your family and spiritual life and all that good stuff. But yeah, so
separated.
Yeah, but it's cool. It's actually really rewarding telling you this because I remember you're like, can you beat me at 180? I'm like, let's go.
Because I knew how you worked. And I knew that was the thing to tell you.
I had JB in my podcast. I had a JB in my podcast last week, and he was like the same thing. He's like, I know how you work. That's exactly why I told you what I told you. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. What did you notice about the mind spending that much time observing it and not reacting to it? What are some things? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
No,
I'd love to see, this. I think it'd be more relatable to. I don't want to intimidate people with like years of yogic practice and the shit I've done. I actually would love to work off what someone who's never used to meditate and thought they can't meditate, sitting consistently for that long. What did you start observing and noticing from the mind, the activity of the mind, or maybe even the body, just things that you didn't notice before, but when you start paying attention and slowing the mind down, you saw?
Yeah. The first and foremost is, of course, what we all notice is how difficult it is to stop the mind from going 100 miles an hour. But once you do stop, once you get to a point where you're able to not think as much as you're used to, the fight that the mind starts having with you over like, this is not right, this is not right. There was a one meditation session where I almost felt I was suffocating. I was like, I couldn't breathe, because the mind wanted to fight so much to get out of, of this whole silence and me getting away from it. Those are the things that I've noticed that made the biggest impact, where it took me on this journey of spirituality, understanding, reading books. But that's the biggest things that I've noticed about the mind in terms of how much it wants to fight with you. And just like you said, you hit the nail on the head, how it always wants to tell you that you're doing something wrong. You should not be sitting here. You should be spending time with your kids. I'm like, no, I have my timer. It's on. I'm here. And the fight that you have with your mind.
But when you're with the kids, it says, you didn't meditate today. You should sit down.
Yeah, you should go meditate. What are you doing here playing with your kids?
If everyone could just wake up to see that most obvious pattern. And it's actually kind of pathetic. Like, I don't mean to judge the mind on its, like as a person, but it's kind of pathetic how obvious and repetitive its cycle is to constantly be pulling the same trick on you, which is catching it, always telling you got to be somewhere else than where you are right now. Just that. Just catch that. Your whole life, you're like, oh my God, that's true. And it's just, you see the mind in its nature. It's like this fucking thing sitting there, like always trying to stress you out. And you look at it like, what's wrong with you, man? Be here now. So you allude to something very beautiful. And I think it's what people should really look forward to when they journey on meditating, which is the source of all suffering stems from thoughts. And it's because you have thoughts that you don't choose or that you think yourself. It just comes through your mind. And the source of the suffering is when you hear those thoughts and you believe them. And the moment you believe them, they become reality for you, which makes it feel very true. And for a long time, the personal development industry has only told you how to change the thoughts you believe, change what you believe to change your reality. But only in the deeper yogic science sciences and the path of the dissolvement of the mind do they introduce to you the concept of not believing the mind at all. And that being the introduction into real liberation, real power. So, that's why I told you in the beginning, don't call me a life coach or mindset coach or any of this, because it would be a lie. It would not be accurate to call me that. I don't tell you how to change who you are so you live a different life. Much less do I not tell you how to live your life. I'm just giving you the tools and the framework and structure on how to wake up from the dream of I am the mind and wake up in the reality and the truth that I am not this mind. And only in that realization of I'm not this mind do you open space for then who am I? And that's the journey of self-realization. The return home to who was I before all of this? Who am I at the deepest core? And then live from that place. And so for those who think meditation is this like sit down for 100 hours, it's not meditation. Meditation is just concentration of awareness. We all have awareness, and unfortunately in today's world, that awareness is running through our hands like sand, being taken from us and trained to be very short-lived. Attention span has gone down to 5 seconds. And I have a feeling that eventually in the future will come a time where you have such a low attention span, you have to pay people just to learn to concentrate. I have no worries about my work then, because clearly it'll be very important soon. But concentration is just being able to focus the mind, direct the mind on something specific. If you watch your mind, especially in meditation, you'll see it's scattered everywhere. There is no direction. Scattered mind is a helpless person. Concentrated mind is power. And so this awareness that we're concentrating is not even the mind. It's more of an awareness of mind. So awareness and mind are separate things. But you can see, for example, when you look at something, but you also see in the peripheral vision right now, you can see everything around the screen that you're looking at. That's awareness. Awareness is a more expansive thing than the mind itself. And the mind thinks it's your eyes, your organs. It thinks, the ego thinks it's the body. So you think you are the one looking at something with your physical eyes. But explain to me how you can close your eyes and see something. Where is that thing you're seeing? With what eyes are you seeing it with? That's not a physical organ. It's definitely not your mind. So awareness has the ability to kind of be everywhere all at once. And when you meditate long enough, deep enough, and you continuously practice the concentrating of awareness on the present moment, the present sensations of this moment, what you're hearing, what you're feeling, what you're sensing, what you're smelling, what you're tasting, what you're seeing, when you're fully being here, when all your awareness is here right now, not sucked into a future thought or a past thought, it's not absorbed by the mind, the awareness itself becomes completely absorbed into this moment. Only then are you free from the being a victim of your mind, of your thoughts. But that's only the first step. Then the advanced step from that point where you could just fully be here with all your sensations right now present, completely present. Then the practice becomes concentrating the awareness onto itself. And this is what they call in Eastern philosophy samadhi, is when the mind absorbs into itself. Awareness becomes aware of awareness. And then there is no self. There's no you. There just is. You experience the oneness of everything. As God, as you as God. And then you come back obviously into this body and you go, what the fuck is this thing? Right? You're like, oh, I experienced myself as the universe. And now I'm this guy wearing a scarf and long hair. How'd this happen? You know, and imagine living that way. You're just fully awake. Like, fuck. I thought I was this person, but clearly, I'm not a man experiencing life or anything. It's more so that I'm the universe experiencing a man. So it's just the practice of bringing all your awareness onto something. And in meditation, there's 2 types that I've understood. There's no thought meditation and single thought meditation. Single thought is usually a mantra. It's the more popular ones. A mantra, like you say, I am he, whatever, as you breathe in and out. Or it's focusing just on a specific image in your mind, or you fixate your mind on like a candle light. You know, it's like you're focusing on one point, single point meditation. But it's still a thought. You're still using the mind. You're still using the mind to hold. You visualize something. This is not meditation to me. This is almost meditation being used to attach to something again. But no thought meditation is you don't use the mind, because meditation is about losing the mind, not using it. And the way you do that is there's no thought. You bring all the awareness into the sensation of feeling things and away from thinking about them. And so I can think I am one with God, or I can bring my awareness into my body and experience every inch of my own skin. And in that inch by inch experience of my own body, I start to feel there's some intelligence and kind of interesting existence of fabric here. And somehow I feel like that's connected to me. I'm connected to it. And so I'm now feeling what it means to be one with God. I'm feeling the moment. In this moment, I'm feeling the sensation. And I'm feeling the existence of being in existence. This is a feeling. You don't think about that. You're experiencing something. So most of us are experiencing our thoughts. Thoughts are just the illusions, usually echoes of the past. So everyone can start meditating right now. Very simple. Activate all senses and just be with them. And so there's 5 doorways into this present moment. There's what you see, what you smell, what you hear, what you taste, and what you touch. There's a 6th one, right? What you feel intuitively, emotion maybe. It's a non-physical organ. But the other ones are organs. With those organs, when they're all activated, you're going to have the best opportunity to be completely here. What's the activity that activates all sensations? And everyone, it goes right over their head. Every time I tell them, they're like, wow, I could maybe be meditating so much if I just did it during this activity. That activity is eating. You're having a nice plate of food in front of you. You're seeing the food. You're smelling the food. You're tasting the food. You're touching the food, and you're hearing yourself chew this food. If you can just zero in all your attention to all the sensations of what it's like to eat, you'll find yourself experiencing this blissful state of peace, of not being yourself, no pressure of being who you are, just experiencing being this moment, doing this thing. And this is the practice. Eventually you get good, you sit, and you straighten your spine, and you just practice the feeling of every inch of sensation of the own body, all the sounds you're hearing around you. And eventually you get so good that the majority of your awareness is being taken up by the sensations of right now, and not by the listening and suffering and believing of thoughts.
I love that advice. Armin, I would love to spend another hour talking to you about this, but I know that we need to wrap this up. Rapid fire questions, the 4 same questions that I ask in every single episode. If you don't mind, just do not think, just answer them as quickly as they come to your mind. What's the best business or life advice you have ever received?
The best advice in general that was business and life came from the president of Think and Grow Rich, which is the beginning of my spiritual journey without even knowing. And he told me, Armin, without peace, you have nothing. And the advice was essentially to never put anything above peace of mind. And it's been true, still continues to be true. And when I sit down and my mind is disturbed by something that's happened and I can't be there in the moment, I can't even finish eating my food. Imagine trying to finish my goals. Peace is everything. Peace is presence, and presence is power. So peace, without peace, you have nothing.
What's the worst business or life advice you've ever received?
Build more systems. Hire better people.
That's not going to be a popular
your friends. Change your friends. Don't go home for Christmas.
That's funny.
Because all those advices are moving you further from your heart and trying to pull you out of being in the moment of the wisdom of those problems and trying to teach you and condition you into thinking you can change life's conditions to meet your needs. And it's not giving you any advice on you observing inside to adjust and free yourself from those conditions so that any condition is meeting the needs. It's teaching you to be a controlling person. And I don't think the greatest business people are controlling people. I think they're people that bring the best out of their situations. That requires a surrender, that requires a trust in the outcomes being, even if they don't know they're going to be, but they build on what they have. And so teaching you to change and control and force outcomes is not teaching you the ultimate power you have, which is a sense of faith, taking massive action with faith. It's making a very scared person to control everything.
I love that answer, man. Next question is one book that every listener should read today.
Untethered Soul. Untethered Soul by Michael Singer has done a fantastic job in practically deconstructing and breaking down the process of surrender in the most logical way, so it's irrefutable. There's no arguing it. And the examples and the metaphors it uses is so profound, you'll never forget them. And you'll never be able to unhear or unknow what you learn in that book. And so when you go into day-to-day life, you know what surrender is and what's not. And it could easily become the beginning of your journey of learning how to find peace by untethering your soul from the mind's attachments. I think it does a great job with that.
I love that. Last question. Still building. What are you still building that our listeners should be looking out for the next 6 to 12 months?
From honestly a place of pure joy, I'm looking forward to continue building the most practical way to do the impractical things of spiritual work. And so the infrastructure I built around all the mysterious, unknown shit I've been practicing and trying in my life that's yielded some incredible things in my life, I'm so grateful and proud of this Armin guy here to have it structured enough that I can hand it to someone. And so in my private client program, we have like a 7-part self-assessment process that's built in a specific way that I can use, and I create a peace formula to actually calculate the best of my ability through your own assessment of yourself, what your percentage of peace is through all 7 different centers of energy, and use that as the insight to what we work on over the 6 months, and then take both assessments, compare them so I can create a transformation report around your karmic path and things. So there's so much structure built around this and the processes of the practices you do, the exercises, and the answer essentially a response to every single thing that shows up in the journey. It's almost like I'm excited to know I have a library with an answer to every question a client asks. And at this point, the amount of clients I've had, I'm just excited to see, like, I don't think I have the answers to everything, but fuck, have I recorded as like a service to the world and to God, so much of it that there's like nothing. I don't think anyone I ever bring this to will feel lost in the process. And it's a very lost-inducing process. So that's what I'm building, the structure around the intangible so that everyone could practicalize peace in their life. And I'm bringing it into the world of people that I know best, entrepreneurs and business owners. So the school is one aspect of it, the private client program is, and then the retreat that it's coming up to do, and the events that we do to kind of give people these practical step-by-step process where they see their ego and wake up from that dream and see truth coming through alignment, living a life of truth, not a life of reaction. That's what I'm excited to build.
I love that. Do you talk about this anywhere on your Instagram or your community? Where can people find more information about this?
Well, I don't, because I don't promote this stuff. It's more networking and one-on-one if we meet with people. But in the school, a lot of the things, obviously, I share, that's the community, right? The school is a lot. We talk every week. So that's a place where I kind of show the insights of things. My Instagram, not too much, but soon that will change, that'll change soon.
Cool. So we'll post a link on the school on the notes. Armin, thank you so much for being here. You are an incredible individual. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and can't wait to talk about this when I'm much more deeper into this journey. But thanks again for being here, man. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me. I love you.